The morning sun crept gently through the windows of the Duggar household, casting long golden streaks across the familiar wooden floors. Each photograph on the walls of birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings seemed to hum with quiet life, a frozen echo of laughter and love. Among them, Jason Duggar's childhood images captured a rare stillness. A thoughtful boy, a dreamer, a soul that always lingered on the edge of reflection. Jason rose early, as he always did, savoring the quiet moments before the house awakened. He dressed carefully, poured himself a cup of coffee, and lingered by the window for a long moment, watching the horizon glow with the first hints of dawn. Today was a day he had been waiting for, a day that promised freedom, clarity, and perhaps a glimpse of the life he wished to build beyond the familiar walls of home. He climbed into his truck, the engine's hum familiar and comforting beneath his fingers. Music filled the cabin softly, a melody that seemed to mirror the calm yet restless energy inside him. The road ahead stretched like a ribbon, winding through fields and hills bathed in morning light. As he drove, thoughts of family, responsibilities, and the dreams he had long nurtured mingled with the scenery, painting a moment of rare, fragile peace. Hours passed with a gentle rhythm. The sunlight shifted, the wind whispered through the open windows, and the world outside seemed to stretch endlessly. Jason's heart was light, his mind alive with possibility, yet even in the warmth of this calm, the air carried a subtle tension, almost imperceptible, a foreshadowing he could not see, could not feel. Then it came in an instant, abrupt and undeniable. A slight movement at the edge of the road, a flash of something crossing, and Jason instinctively turned the wheel. Tires skidded against the asphalt, the truck fishtailing violently. Metal groaned, glass rattled, and a low, terrifying roar filled the air. Time seemed to expand in those moments. Each heartbeat stretched into an eternity. The truck collided with the roadside guardrail, ricocheted, and slammed into a massive tree with a force that shattered the delicate calm of the morning. Glass exploded in shards that glittered like cruel diamonds in the sunlight. The engine screamed and then fell silent, smoke curling into the air as if the earth itself exhaled in shock. Inside, Jason's body was tossed and jolted, hands loosening from the wheel, eyes wide and searching for a fleeting glimpse of the sky above. For a brief heartbeat, he seemed serene, a quiet acceptance washing over him, before the stillness of finality claimed everything. Outside, the world remained indifferent. The fields, the trees, the distant hills, all witnesses to the sudden, irreversible change. The sun began its descent, painting the sky in deep crimson and gold, a cruelly beautiful backdrop to the silence that followed. Miles away, the family carried on, unaware of the catastrophe, laughter and ordinary chatter filling the house, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding elsewhere. And yet, in that quiet moment on the lonely road, the world shifted. A life full of hope, dreams, and love had paused in a way that no one yet understood. The truck rested against the tree, motionless, a fragile monument to what had been, and to all that would never be. The song still played faintly from the broken stereo, a haunting echo of moments that had been, a melody suspended between memory and loss. Time continued to move elsewhere, but there on that roadside, the day that had begun with promise ended in a silence so profound it seemed to stretch into eternity. The calm, the peace, the light, all of it lingered like a memory, a delicate, impossible reminder of the life Jason Duggar had carried, and the world that would now carry him only in recollection. The late afternoon sun filtered softly through the Duggar household, casting warm, golden beams across the familiar rooms that now seemed unbearably quiet. For hours, the house had carried on as it always did, chores, laughter, conversation. Yet a subtle unease had begun to creep into the air. Something felt wrong, though no one could yet name it. A mother's intuition, a flicker of worry in the heart, a sense that a small piece of the world was missing. It began with a simple thought that lingered in Michelle Duggar's mind. Jason had left early that morning, promising to be back by now. The house had carried on, busy with its usual rhythm, yet a shadow of anticipation had begun to take root. She glanced at her phone, noticed the absence of messages, the silence of replies, and felt a prickle of concern she could not shake. Hours became heavy minutes. Each second stretched longer than the last, filling the rooms with a tense, suffocating stillness. Siblings who had once teased or joked now sat quietly, uneasy, glancing at doors and windows as if expecting Jason to appear at any moment, as if the sound of his truck's engine might shatter the growing tension. Every phone call, every message sent, and every unanswered ring deepened the unease, layering it with dread that none of them dared speak aloud. The sky outside began to darken, the golden light fading into a subdued melancholic gray. Clouds moved sluggishly across the horizon, mirroring the weight in the hearts inside the house. Time itself seemed suspended. Memories of Jason flooded every corner. His laughter, quiet moments by the window, the way he had always carried a thoughtful expression, the subtle warmth of his presence that had gone unnoticed until now. That absence, though invisible, pressed heavily on everyone. The first phone call came from a friend, voice trembling, hesitant, carrying news that seemed impossible. The words themselves could not be absorbed immediately, bouncing off the walls of disbelief before they settled in, cold and unforgiving. An accident. A truck. A roadside. Jason. In an instant, the house was filled with a weight that could almost be touched. A tangible grief that pressed into lungs, that stilled hearts, that made time itself pause. The laughter, the lightness of earlier hours, the simple ordinariness of life, evaporated like mist under the harsh light of tragedy. Mothers, fathers, siblings, all caught in a suspended reality, a nightmare that felt impossibly vivid, yet impossible to grasp. Michelle's heart constricted, a fierce, unbearable ache taking over her chest. She remembered every morning she had watched him rise, every word she had spoken in guidance, every gentle smile she had received. The thought of never seeing him again, never hearing his voice, never witnessing his quiet humor or thoughtful observations, crashed over her in relentless waves. She sank into a chair, her hands trembling, her mind racing through memories, prayers, regrets, moments both cherished and seemingly insignificant. Every single memory became a piercing dagger, a reminder of how fragile life could be. The siblings reacted in their own ways, some frozen in disbelief, staring blankly at the walls as though staring hard enough could summon him back. Some pacing, unable to bear the stillness. Some sinking silently, tears tracing paths down their faces, mourning the possibility of what was already gone. Each reaction intertwined with another, forming a tapestry of collective grief, yet uniquely personal for every heart in the household. Hours seemed to stretch into an eternity. Calls to authorities, frantic attempts to confirm details, whispers of what had happened, and fragments of unverified information filled the room with noise, yet none of it brought clarity, only more dread. The road, the truck, the accident. Everything felt simultaneously distant and hauntingly near, an invisible phantom shadowing every step. Night fell, heavy and unrelenting. The house, once a sanctuary of life and laughter, had become a crucible of raw emotion. Every small sound, the creak of a floorboard, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant bark of a dog, seemed amplified, echoing in the minds of those who now waited, desperate for news, desperate for hope. Yet hope itself felt fragile, almost cruelly delicate, a thread stretched impossibly thin. Each person was left to wrestle with memory and fear, recollection and reality. The mundane details of the day, breakfast crumbs on the table, shoes left untied, laundry waiting, all became unbearably poignant, reminders of the ordinary life that had been interrupted, of the presence that would no longer walk through the door. Jason's laughter, his quiet smile, his thoughtful glance, these became treasures and tortures all at once, the most vivid parts of memory now tinged with unbearable sorrow. Time continued, indifferent and relentless, but inside the Duggar household, every heartbeat was a lifetime. Minutes dragged with crushing weight. Hours became unbearable stretches of anticipation and despair. The family clung to one another in ways that felt both instinctive and inadequate, each grasp, each shared breath, each tear a silent plea to the universe to reverse what had been done. Yet nothing could undo the turning of fate, the abrupt fracture of a life that had seemed so full of promise. Outside, the world moved on in blissful ignorance. The wind rustled leaves, stars began to pierce the darkening sky, and the quiet hum of distant roads continued. Yet inside, time had shattered. A life full of dreams, laughter, and quiet hopes had been suspended, leaving a void that would stretch endlessly into the night. The house, heavy with grief, held every sound, every thought, every heartbeat, as if trying to absorb what the world could not. And so the evening passed, long, merciless, infinite. Every memory, every hope, every moment of joy became intertwined with loss. The family, bound by love and by pain, began to understand that life had irrevocably shifted. Nothing would ever be the same again. The silence, once ordinary, was now deafening, and in that silence, the presence of the one they had lost was felt more acutely than ever before. The days that followed stretched endlessly, each one heavier than the last, as if time itself had slowed to honor the magnitude of what had been lost. The Duggar household, once alive with laughter, chatter, and the rhythm of countless small routines, had become a place suspended between life and sorrow. Every room seemed to echo with Jason's absence, every familiar corner a silent witness to what had been. His shoes remained by the door, his jacket hung untouched, his favorite cup sat on the counter, a quiet monument to the life that had been abruptly taken away. The family moved through their days like ghosts, carrying rituals that now felt hollow. Breakfasts were eaten in silence, the clatter of utensils loud in the emptiness of the kitchen. Chairs remained pulled out, plates were set, yet no one touched them with the same casual ease as before. Every glance at the empty spaces around the house carried a sharp pang, a reminder that Jason, who had once been the quiet heartbeat of many mornings, was no longer there to fill the gaps. Sleep became a distant friend, elusive and unpredictable. Nights were filled with dreams that twisted memory and reality, where Jason's laughter floated through corridors, where fleeting glimpses of him walking down familiar hallways would vanish the moment someone turned to greet him. Each morning brought the cruel reminder that those dreams were false, that the silence awaiting them in reality was unyielding. The world outside seemed oblivious, carrying on with mundane routines and unknowing cheer, while inside, hearts beat heavy with grief that refused to relent. Time itself had fractured. Moments of daily life became both unbearable and painfully ordinary. A sibling reaching for a cup and hesitating, remembering Jason's presence there. A mother moving through the kitchen, pausing mid-step, recalling his gentle smile. A father sorting through papers, fingers brushing over the edge of a note Jason had left behind, suddenly realizing that the ordinary objects of life now carried extraordinary weight. Each object, each sound, each memory became a vessel for mourning, a silent echo of what had been. The initial shock that had struck like a storm slowly settled into a deep, relentless ache, a constant companion that gnawed at the edges of thought and memory. It was a weight that pressed upon hearts in ways words could not capture, a sensation that lingered in every movement, every breath. Even laughter became tinged with guilt, a hesitant sound shadowed by the knowledge that joy could not erase absence, could not bring back what had been lost. Outside, the world continued its indifferent rhythm. The sky shifted from dawn to dusk, seasons edged forward, birds sang and flew, rain fell and rivers flowed. But within the walls of the home, time had taken on a new meaning, measured not by hours or minutes, but by the distance between memory and reality, by the space left behind by a life that had ended too soon. Family rituals, once simple and comforting, became acts of endurance. Meals were shared, not with the easy chatter of before, but with the silent acknowledgement of missing presence. Every chair, every plate, every fork became a reminder that someone essential was no longer part of these shared moments. The quietest ones in the house carried the loudest grief, their thoughts looping endlessly through recollections of Jason's voice, gestures, and the simple ways he had been part of their lives. Even the physical spaces seemed to mourn. The driveway where his truck had once waited now felt hauntingly empty, the road stretching out beyond the house a ribbon of memory and loss. The wind whispered through the trees in patterns that seemed to imitate his laughter, the branches swaying as if to echo the absence left behind. The ordinary landscape of life had become infused with a tragic resonance, a reminder that life could shift irreversibly in a heartbeat. Sleep-deprived nights became punctuated by silent moments of remembrance. Every memory felt vivid, sharply etched against the rawness of grief. A morning spent quietly reading, a laugh shared in passing, the way he had tilted his head thoughtfully while considering something no one else noticed. Each recollection was both comforting and agonizing, a double-edged testament to the love that remained and the impossibility of reclaiming what had been lost. The family clung to routines as anchors, though they now felt fragile and tentative. Small rituals, the lighting of a candle, the careful folding of a shirt, the placement of flowers near a photo, became acts of survival. Each one was an attempt to keep Jason's presence tangible, to assert that, though he was gone, the impact of his life remained woven into the fabric of their days. The house became a living repository of memory, each room a silent cathedral of grief, yet also of enduring love. Even in the midst of this profound sorrow, fleeting moments of clarity arose. A soft smile at the memory of a joke Jason had told, a quiet chuckle at something only he could have done, a tearful sigh at the recollection of a tender gesture. These moments were small sparks, brief and fragile, yet they illuminated the reality that life continued to move forward, even in the shadow of heartbreak. They were reminders that the love shared had been real, tangible and unforgettable. The nights were the hardest, stretching into quiet, endless darkness. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside, seemed amplified, resonating with the absence that had settled permanently into the heart of the home. The family lay awake, individually and together, grappling with the unanswerable questions, the what-ifs, the ache of loss that could not be soothed. And yet, even in this overwhelming grief, there was a quiet, stubborn persistence, a recognition that, despite everything, love endured, memory endured, and the life Jason had lived would continue to shape them in ways they could not yet comprehend. Days, weeks, and months would eventually follow, each carrying its own weight, each testing the resilience of hearts unprepared for the magnitude of absence. But in this moment, in this part of their journey, the world had slowed, pressing the family into a crucible of mourning. Each thought, each breath, each heartbeat was infused with the gravity of what had been lost. And even as despair threatened to consume them, the memory of Jason's presence, gentle, thoughtful, alive, remained a constant thread, a fragile lifeline tethering them to the love and light that would never fully fade, even in the face of unimaginable sorrow. The house remained heavy with absence, but slowly, imperceptibly, the first threads of resilience began to weave themselves into the fabric of daily life. Days bled into one another, each a fragile attempt to reclaim fragments of normalcy from the grip of grief. The Duggar household, once suffused with the warmth of familiarity, now operated in quiet rhythm, each movement deliberate, each breath a reminder that life must continue, even in the shadow of profound loss. Morning light, soft and golden, fell through the windows and illuminated the familiar rooms with a gentle persistence, as if the world itself were urging the family forward. Each room held the memory of Jason, his absence both sharp and tender. Yet within that absence they began to discover something unexpected, the capacity to endure, the quiet strength that grief often uncovers in the heart of those left behind. Michelle moved through her days with careful determination, performing the ordinary tasks of life while carrying the extraordinary weight of loss. In the kitchen, the sight of Jason's untouched cup remained a small, sacred relic. Every gesture of care, a folded shirt, a swept floor, a prepared meal, became an act of love, a way to honor the memory of the son who had brought so much depth and thoughtfulness into the lives of all who knew him. Each movement was infused with remembrance, each breath a meditation on the presence that remained in memory even as absence loomed. The siblings, too, navigated this delicate path. Their grief was varied, nuanced, and deeply personal. Some found solace in routine, immersing themselves in tasks to quiet the unrelenting ache. Others wandered through rooms heavy with silence, fingertips brushing over surfaces Jason had touched, as if contact with the physical world might somehow reconnect them to the intangible essence of his life. Laughter began to return, tentative, fleeting, often followed by a sudden, sharp pang of sorrow, a reminder that the heart could hold both grief and joy simultaneously, though never without tension. In the evenings, as shadows lengthened and the world outside seemed to settle into muted reflection, memories became their companions. Every recollection, a shared joke, a quiet glance, the soft weight of his hand on a sibling's shoulder, was relived with both reverence and pain. These memories, once casual and fleeting, were now sacred threads linking past and present, weaving a tapestry of connection that defied the permanence of absence. Time, though relentless, began to take on a different cadence. Weeks blurred into months, but within the rhythm of daily life, subtle shifts occurred. The household learned to accommodate the emptiness without erasing the presence it represented. Rooms no longer felt oppressive but solemn. Silence, though still heavy, became a canvas upon which remembrance and quiet gratitude were painted. Even in moments of despair, there emerged an almost imperceptible resilience. A sibling might laugh at a memory they had once shared with Jason, feeling both sorrow and warmth at the same time. A parent might pause by a photograph, tear-filled eyes softening as they recognized that love, though shadowed by loss, endured. Each small act, a step outside, a task completed, a meal shared, became a quiet declaration. Life continued, and within it, Jason's influence remained indelible. Nature mirrored this slow awakening. The first buds of spring appeared, delicate and tentative, pushing through earth softened by winter. Sunlight warmed the fields once again, and birds returned to sing among the trees near the driveway where Jason's truck had once waited. These small signs of life, fragile and unassuming, reminded the family that the world moved on, yet it did so with room for memory, for reflection, for the honoring of those no longer present. Even grief, once all-consuming, began to transform. The raw ache softened, giving way to a deeper understanding that loss, while permanent, could coexist with love, with remembrance, and even with hope. Every tear shed was a testament to the depth of connection. Every quiet sigh a meditation on the value of a life well lived, if far too brief. In this space, the family began to rebuild their sense of home. Meals were shared with laughter returning in fleeting, precious moments. Conversations, though initially hesitant, resumed, punctuated by memory, reverence, and careful attempts at normalcy. The house, once a crucible of sorrow, slowly became a sanctuary of remembrance. A place where absence and presence could exist side by side, where love persisted in the face of loss, and where resilience quietly bloomed. Evenings became times of reflection. The sky, painted in hues of crimson, gold, and fading blue, mirrored the duality of emotion within the house. Beauty intertwined with sorrow, light alongside shadow. Each sunset offered the family an unspoken promise that though life could break hearts, it also offered the possibility of healing, of moving forward, and of carrying the essence of those lost into every new day. And so the days passed, heavy, tender, infinitely layered with grief and love intertwined. Each heartbeat, each breath, each small act of living became a testament to endurance, a quiet celebration of memory, and a delicate acknowledgement that life, though irrevocably altered, continued. Within the shadow of Jason's absence, the family discovered the fragile strength of the human heart, the indelible power of love, and the enduring light of memory that could never truly be extinguished. Time, ever relentless, continued to move, carrying the weight of loss alongside the fragile tendrils of hope. The Duggar household, once frozen in grief, began to breathe again, slowly, deliberately, as if the walls themselves had learned to remember without suffocating. Life, though irrevocably altered, had resumed its rhythm, quieter, more reflective, yet alive with the enduring presence of love that no absence could erase. Each morning carried a new softness. The sun's rays touched the familiar floors, illuminating the photographs that told stories of laughter and togetherness. Among them, Jason's image lingered not as a reminder of what had been stolen, but as a beacon of enduring impact, a life that had shaped every heart it had touched. Family members moved through the house carrying memory and loss with grace, learning to inhabit absence without letting it define the entirety of their days. Michelle, once burdened by the crushing ache of a mother's grief, discovered a quiet strength in her daily routines. Each small act, preparing breakfast, tending the garden, folding laundry, became a way to honor Jason's life, a declaration that love persists beyond physical presence. Her heart remained heavy with longing, but she also felt a burgeoning awareness that grief and resilience could coexist, each strengthening the other in subtle, profound ways. The siblings, too, embraced their memories with newfound depth. Moments that once elicited sharp pangs of sorrow gradually became windows into cherished experience. A shared laugh at a remembered joke, a silent gesture of comfort toward one another, a glance at a photograph. Each became a thread weaving the fabric of collective memory, a tapestry of connection that transcended absence. In these acts, they found solace and affirmation that Jason's presence, though unseen, remained ever tangible. Days transformed into weeks, weeks into months, and with each passing moment, the sharp edges of grief softened. The house, once a crucible of raw emotion, became a sanctuary of remembrance. Sunlight streamed through windows, dust motes dancing like tiny sparks of memory in the air. The wind whispered gently through trees, carrying with it a sense of quiet continuity. Nature itself seemed to acknowledge the persistence of life, even in the wake of profound loss. Evenings were no longer defined solely by mourning. The family gathered around tables, shared meals, and exchanged quiet stories of Jason's kindness, thoughtfulness, and laughter. Memories, once sources of pain, now offered warmth. Each retelling, each reflection became an act of celebration, a recognition that life, though fragile, leaves indelible marks upon the hearts of those it touches. The journey toward healing was neither swift nor simple. Grief remained a companion, present in small, unavoidable moments. A glance at an empty chair, the fleeting scent of his favorite cologne in a room, a song that evoked memories too vivid to bear easily. Yet, even in these moments there existed an underlying truth. Love endures, memory endures, and the impact of a life well lived continues to shape the world long after the body is gone. Nature mirrored this gradual restoration. Flowers bloomed where snow had once lingered, rivers swelled and receded, and the sun rose and set in the familiar rhythm that had always carried life forward. Each small miracle, each subtle shift in the world, reminded the family that existence moves forward, not in spite of loss but alongside it. A delicate interplay of shadow and light, grief and hope. In time, the family began to reclaim small joys. A laugh shared in memory, a walk through familiar fields, the comfort of routine, each moment a testament to resilience. The house, once heavy with silence, resonated again with the soft cadence of life. The presence of Jason, though invisible, had been internalized. It lived on in gestures, thoughts, and the quiet strength of hearts forever changed by his life. The final light of day, spilling golden and warm through the windows, seemed to speak a gentle truth. Life continues, even after devastation, and the heart, though broken, possesses a remarkable capacity to heal. Memory becomes sanctuary, grief becomes guidance, and love endures as the invisible thread connecting past, present, and future. And so, in the silence that followed the passage of time, the family discovered that though loss had altered the shape of their world, it had not extinguished the light within it. Jason Duggar's life, brief yet profound, remained an unbroken thread woven into the tapestry of their hearts. A presence eternal, a memory unshakable, a love that transcended even the finality of absence. In the quiet of the evening, with the sun setting low, the house held its breath, and the family felt the enduring truth. Life moves forward, hearts persist, and even in the shadow of tragedy, light can always be found.